it's me again. And it's been a few days since I made a video, but I was out on the scene yesterday. I wanted to get enough material to be able to do a video. That's Wednesday, the 19th of January. I was out on scene. I went down to Austin. So I live about 2-hour drive from Austin. Went down to Austin and, wanted to do some snooping around. It's the office of it's the office of Chesapeake Energy. So Chesapeake Energy resides in the whole 6th floor of that building on 823 Congress. It's a block away from less than a block away from the Capitol. So it looks at that beautiful Texas pink granite Capitol. The next stop was I wanted to go. So this was curious. I think it was more or less to satisfy my own curiosity. I went south. You go south, and you go to South Lamar, and you keep going south. And on 2003 South Lamar, back in December, when the NextBridge website was launched, to the Teal group was the people who did the website, right? And I said, well, let's look into the Teal group. And NextBridge said that they're headquartered in Austin, along with, Chesapeake. So, and a lot of the people who were at Chesapeake are now in NextBridge. It kind of ties together, right? Let's go to South Austin. I want to check out this Teal group. And I thought, well, maybe it's a shell office. So a lot of times you get what's called a shell office. A shell office is basically just an address somebody has where you can get mail, and maybe there's another entity that the same person owns in that office, or maybe, it's like a UPS box, but it's called a shell, essentially. So if people have stuff physically delivered, it goes to the shell office, or if they want to contact you. So this office building was rather interesting. The sign on front had not been updated for quite a few years. These businesses listed here, none of them exist inside the office. Inside the lobby here of the office, you can see these current tenants. So each one of these offices, I would say, is about the size of like a 10 by 12 bedroom, maybe a 12 by 12 bedroom. They're pretty tiny. And Teal Group was supposed to be in Office 5. Office 5 was locked and completely empty. But in Office 1 was a real estate group. And the owner of Teal is actually in real estate in Austin. He has a real estate license, as you can see by his LinkedIn. So maybe this might be related to his company. So you have a real estate group here. What I did find, though, is this marketing group called Z Prime, which is an energy company marketing group. And yes, they do also do oil and gas. They do utilities. They do oil and gas. You can visit their website and their Facebook. They do events, like EV events, anything with energy or EV or oil and gas. Anything energy related, they try to focus on. So it's like a marketing group, which I found, I'm like, wait, what? But then you have this, so Z Prime is there. No Teal group was found. There was no Teal group there. And you have this advertising agency I will also show you. It's Austin-based advertising agency. They have a couple of satellite offices around Austin, actually. They have one headquarter, but then they have like different satellite offices. And so this advertising company was also there. So it's like a one-stop shop. And then it had a realtor office. And then there was like a conference room. There was a conference room where so you had a small little office, but then if you had to do any meetings or conferences, you had a designated conference room. So that's what I found at 2003 South Lamar, what was supposed to be the website for Teal. Now, what does this mean? So my opinion was I was expecting to find a shell. Like anybody who I talked to prior to doing this maybe about 8 times out of 10, you'll find a shell company in these types of situations. Does the Teal group exist? Yes, Teal group exists. I'll show you here. Here's the registered files. It is a legit business in Texas. The office, though, is a shell office. It is a registered. Are they working with Z Prime? And if you look at Z Prime, and then you look at Teal Group, it's different groups of people, but they could have worked together, or Teal Group could have contracted it out to Z Prime, right? They could have just contracted this website out to Z Prime. I find that interesting because Teal Group has been around since 2018, and I said, well, what have they done? And the answer was like a Nextbridge website, and then a CPA website. And there was no other like information about clients. You go to Z Prime and like here's a whole list of clients, right? And then you go to Teal Group, it's like no clients are listed. So they could be working with Z Prime. It could be working with Teal. I know people told me that they've tried to contact Teal Group, crickets. So it might behoove people to contact Z Prime and see if they're related at all to Teal Group. It sounds like irrelevant, but I found it to be like, because this group, they only have like 2 websites out, and then they come out with Nextbridge, They're not really well known. What's the connection to Teal? Why'd they choose the Teal company? How'd they find them? Is there like an inside thing? And I find the whole Z Prime pretty fascinating in that office. The 2003 that I posted, that was just the address to show that I went to a physical location. I'm not like posting Google Street photos. I went to like a physical location of this. So let's talk about Friday. So oil WTI is on the rise. People ask me what's going to happen Friday. The answer to that is I don't know. We don't know what happened Friday. I don't expect anything to happen Friday besides those MMTLP linked options to MMAT. I expect those to expire tomorrow, Friday. After that, we'll see what happens. It's going to take about 2 days for those shares to settle. Something could be announced before then. Something could be announced after then, if things are to be announced. This is what I think the order of events is going to go. So I've been talking with GG76 on StockTwits. And I had a hunch. I've been talking to you guys about how it's going to go into Oilco. All the shares are going to be moved into Oilco, and then we're going to get our money, right? Or it's going to be an equity buyback. So we spent last week and earlier this week looking at the callable share structure. So, you have Charles Schwab who says the shares might be callable. You have Thinkorswim on TD Ameritrade that says CLBL callable. The shares truly aren't callable because if you look in the prospectus, there was nothing that said the actual definition of callable. That wasn't in there. But there was things that talked about, and it said the shares could not be redeemed. But there was a loose structure in there that talked about how, you'll get the dividend and then the shares will be destroyed. And this was filed in June of 2021, right before the preferred shares came out, the Torchlight preferred shares were released. What I think is going to happen, and this will free us from SEC rules, is that MMTLP is going to go into Oilco. Right, we knew that. MMTLP is going to transfer into Oilco. Oilco is a private company. So that means like you don't have to follow a lot of the rules. It's a private company. And once it reissues new shares in Oilco or equities in Oilco, it can then write out an actual share structure that will say these shares are redeemable or callable, or we'll do an equity buyback. Once it goes private, then you're going to get your money. And I'm looking at the taxable structure on a share repurchase program. So how it's going to work for us money is, oil co-private, and then because it's private, you're going to get your VC funding. That's going to be your buyer. It's going to be VC funded. So it's going to be spun out into oil co, and then you're going to get your VC funding. And then they're going to pay you for your equity through that VC funding. They're going to use that VC funding and pay you for your equity. We talked about that, the venture capital funding, and how that provides better financing terms when you do an equity buyback. That's what I think is going to happen. So you'll see your shares going to Oilco first, and then you'll get your money once you get an Oilco share. Because the current share structure does not support a callable or redeemable dividend, as me and GG76 researched over this weekend. We could find some loose structures. There's that Section E on that SEC filing that was very loose, but there's no specific definition of callable. Because when you use the definition of callable, you have to do things like have a maturity date, have a par value, right? And nothing says it's callable, because then you have to have maturity dates, par values. If it goes to private, then you can set things up a lot better. So that's why it's going to go into Oilco Holdings first. But we've been talking about that. Oilco Holdings, then they're going to do an equity buyback because it's a private company and there'll be VC money. And that creates the tax benefits on every party involved. But I will look back into equity buybacks and tax benefits for you guys. That's my next step. So I got to call Chesapeake and set up a meeting time with them. I think that will be cool. Also, I'm going to try and set up a meeting. The former president of the Texas Oil and Gas Association actually lives in Texas terms down the street from me. Some people are like, oh, he lives far away. No, in Texas terms, it's down the street. So he lives in my area, and I think it'd be cool to get an interview with him. He was president of the Texas Oil and Gas Association for 26 years. He retired in 2014, so he retired right when Torchlight formed. And Torchlight took over the Oro Grande assets. And this is before, the really big petrophysics studies were done and the Cactus well was drilled. So he might have some good insider information. I think he'll have great information regardless. He was an attorney. He has a pretty illustrious career. But yeah, that's my next goal, is to set up an interview with the former president of the Texas Oil and Gas Association, because he lives in my area. So I got to contact him. I don't think I'm going to bird up for that. I don't want to scare him too much. But he did live in Austin for a while. I'll dress normal. I'll wear my best boots for this interview, because that's like how you dress up out here. You got to cowboy up. So I'll wear some boots, nice ranch shirt, which is by nice ranch shirts, like the button up at the collar. Get your hat on. So I will, like you're going to a horse show. And I will talk with him. Again, I found the whole Z Prime thing really interesting. Is it connected to Teal Group? Quite possibly, because Z Prime focuses on energy. They're in the same building. There's this other advertising agency in the building. To me, it seems like they're related enough, and the offices are right there, where they can outsource projects to one another. But Teal Group is, in fact, a real company. It's not a scam. People are like, it's a scam. No, Teal Group's a real company. It's registered in the state of Texas. You have to be a registered business in the state of Texas, you have to have, a registered agent. You have to register your franchise tax and or sales tax every year or quarterly. at least quarterly for sales tax. Sometimes you can do it annually. So you have to like keep up with paperwork. Texas paperwork's annoying. A lot of people tell you they don't like doing business in Texas because of all the paperwork. But they are legit in that regards. You know, the address I thought was interesting. It wasn't like a P.O. box or anything, so it was a physical address. Okay, guys, I will see you soon. Goodbye.